another episode of Gaming for the Culture. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Junae Benne, and today we have another banger. When it's not a banger, I'll let y'all know. In secret, I'll wink, even though technically you can't see me. Spotify, and Apple Music and stuff like that. But I think I'm going to have a great conversation today. And that's what I think with everyone, though. We were just saying that. So maybe I'm biased, but we're going to have a really good conversation today. I'm really excited to talk with further. This is literally our first time like speaking with each other. And we talked a little bit before the recording, but now we get to talk about stuff more in depth. I know we were both holding back and like being quiet and being like, wait, that's like really good podcast stuff. So we have an amazing streamer, 11 years streaming, right? 11 years streaming, stream educator, just I think a great personality in general. And I just want to introduce you to Loko. Loko, can you introduce yourself to the people and whatever I missed, please share.
Yeah, Junae, thank you so much for having me. I'm Loko. I have been a content creator for almost 11 years now, which I think is makes me an elder in this industry. I, initially was a full-time gaming content creator and then pivoted to doing educational content. So I help other creators, streamers learn how to grow and be successful. I talk about the latest platform news and the industry as a whole. And I started my own company, Streamer Square, to really help creators take things to the next level where we do courses and seminars. And recently, last year, actually, almost to the date, I joined a company called River. It's a startup that aims to help creators find their best moments across their long form content so that they can make more clips and grow. So I'm head of product over there. I am not a robot, even though it may seem that way with all of the things that I do. Longest intro ever.
I love it though. Yeah. I mean, you could be a robot if you really wanted to, like if you put your mind to it,
I might
I
need
think.
less sleep to function, honestly.
Yeah, maybe we'll think about it. We'll think about it. We'll see what the possibilities are. Yeah, that's a lot. That is a lot of stuff that you do, but my favorite thing is that none of it is random, right? Like you're not like, "Oh yeah, I talk about like streaming stuff, but I'm also like a financial advisor." And I say that because there are a lot of people who are in the space, but they do something completely different. And so you are someone who started streaming. You came in at the time of Gamergate, right? Maybe just a little bit afterwards, since you started streaming in 2014. And I said that I also started streaming in 2014, and my setup was the Xbox One and the Kinect, because that time that was peak technology. Now you can't even find an Xbox One, nor a Kinect, nor an Xbox that really supports Kinect. I think they literally like just stopped supporting Kinect, and we are in February 2025. Like I think they just stopped supporting it. So, what was your setup when you first started?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of relics, I started streaming on a laptop. I had an iPad as my chat. I had a headset mic that was falling apart. That I got away with, I was still in my college like apartment at the time. I had just graduated college, and was like a shy little, person, starting streaming and just wanting to game with a community. And things obviously have evolved over the last decade of doing this. And not only for myself, but really for the industry as a whole. Which I'm excited to get into, but I won't get ahead there.
Yeah, I actually think that's a pretty good setup, because let me I don't know if you ever got a chance to stream on an Xbox. Like I'm not sure what your first console was when it came to streaming, or if you've just been strictly PC because you were on a laptop. But honestly, thinking at that point, I'm not sure what laptop could have done that plus a capture card, plus a console. You're like, no, it
Yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
never. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been a lifelong gamer, and I actually find it interesting that people get into gaming with streaming like together at the same time. I think that's really cool, and I I think maybe streaming and Twitch has really played a part of like making gaming more accessible and like open and just kind of like I don't know, getting people into it. So you know, I've had the Xboxes and the PlayStations, but yeah, I never actually streamed directly from them. I didn't even find Twitch until, 2014, end of 2013 actually. And just using whatever I had to I didn't think anything of it really. I wasn't trying to do anything. Back then it wasn't a job. It wasn't a career surely like for people. It was just like I wanted a community of people to hang out with me. I had friends and I wanted them to watch me while I, played games and hung out with them. And that's really how it all started for me.
I did it a little bit similar as well. I was just wanting to find some people. Um, so really quickly, the funny thing about streaming on an Xbox is, you know, when Xbox introduced the Connect, it had this feature of like Xbox turn on, Xbox turn off. And, being a good streamer, you would read people's username out loud. So some people's username would be Xbox turn off. And when you're in the motion of just being like, oh, I'm playing a game, because I would play things like iDarb or Evolve or Rayman Legends, or something that was just taking all of my brain, right? Like I would be like, "Oh, hi, welcome to the stream." Xbox turn off, and then my stream is over.
That's a
Like
good troll name, honestly. I gotta give
s-
props to the trolls for
I
that one
could
because
never be upset
that's
with that. Like that was a really good. Like that was really good. Like it was good. It was wholesome, right? Like that was the one downside to with um streaming on an Xbox, because if you didn't have that feature turned off, like you would literally close midstream. And I think they got me a couple of times. I think they got me a couple of times before I was like, I've learned, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Golly, today, get it together. So I think that was one of the funnier things. And looking at the price, I wish I had looked up the price for a capture card in 2014, because I can't imagine how much it would have been for a capture
yeah.
card in 2014. Um, because now they're and I think this goes for a lot of the streaming equipment. Like so 2014, uh, playing on an Xbox, you were playing on a laptop. Streaming on an Xbox, you're streaming on a laptop. And I talked about some of the games that I was playing. What were some of the games you were playing on your laptop?
Yeah, so the way I found Twitch was it was like the end of my second to last semester of college and it was finals were coming up and naturally I wanted to procrastinate. So I went to Steam and was like, I'm going to find a game to play. And there was at the time Daisy and Rust, which is, so fascinating how popular Rust is today, but at the time they were both like super early access survival games. And I was like, okay, well, I can't get both. So, which one do I get? And someone in one of the comments for one of the games wrote a review and linked their Twitch. And I click on this and I see that like people are playing games and you can watch people. And I was like, man, this is like such a silly idea. Like, who would watch people play games? I mean, like, and I left. And I still couldn't make the decision, so I went back and I went and found someone playing the games, and, it didn't take me long to find a streamer named Carnage. And, he is still a streamer today, is a very community-oriented streamer, and I got hooked and really just became totally ingrained in that community, and that's kind of what led me to inevitably streaming, but anyways, yeah, so Daisy, Rust, early access survival games, really into that. I'm always a fan of like any sort of like sim games. I'm a sucker for those as well.
I just started being more into sim games like Supermarket Together or like Power Wash Simulator. Like that's me. Like
There's so many good ones.
there's so many good ones, and it's so fun because like I know people do this for work, but I don't, right? I do this to unwind or like I notice if I'm having a rough day, I will pull up Supermarket Together and play like a day cycle because it's like if I can get my brain going and if I can figure out like, my storage problems and like expanding the store and stuff like that, I'm going to be really productive the other times. On top of that, I was talking about how I was approaching streaming. And, you said that you were like looking for a community, which was like same. I had just moved, I graduated college in 2013. And I moved from Illinois to Colorado, and I really didn't know anybody. And I remember really wanting to just be around other gamers. Um, and I had graduated with like a broadcast journalism degree because I've always wanted to be in front of the camera. I wanted to be on air talent, but I just was not getting those gigs like whatsoever. And so I remember being like, okay, well, I'm going to stream. I'm going to stream my own like little news show where I just like kind of pick topics to talk about. And so that's how it happened. And even now, if anyone scours my YouTube, like you'll go back and I'm talking about some of the golly, I think that's the stuff where there was like a riot happening in like Baltimore. There was like some political stuff going on. And so I kind of used to play and like talk about it a little bit and maybe not have like this in-depth like report, but just be like, hey, this is what's going on. And I transitioned from doing like not even local news, but I transitioned from doing like that type of news to gaming stuff to saying, hey, here's what's going on in gaming. And then I started to make this show called This Week in Gaming. And then when Microsoft hired me, they wanted me to turn it into like This Week at like in Xbox and share it like internally. So some of the people who are more like not Xbox focused, pretty much could like know what's going on and be able to talk to it. And so that was kind of cool to see the connection because I never thought like that would happen. But to go on and stream and to like find my community and to just I never got into like other streamers very heavy. Like I know everybody was like, oh, Markiplier, Markiplier, Markiplier. And I was like, oh, like guy's funny. But, like tuning into it, like I would tune into like The Simpsons or something when there's a new episode, just didn't really happen that way. So while I did look at it as an opportunity to like continue to practice my skills and further my skills because I've always wanted to be on G4, always wanted to be on E3, RIP, you know, I just kind of took it that way. So I was looking for this to go somewhere, but could I imagine how streaming is now? No. The practices were different. There was definitely a formula, but the practices were a bit different, and there has been an evolution to the technology. It's so funny because I saw Justin TV a couple of weeks ago. He's a DJ now. He was in Finland. He was in Finland DJing at Slush, I think, which is like a startup entrepreneur like conference. And I was like, well, where's the most perfect place for and he doesn't go by that anymore. But I don't
That's really cool.
remember what. Yeah, I thought I just took a picture because I was like front row and I was like, this is so funny. I was like like full circle, right? Like full just very much like full circle.
Yeah. I
But
mean, it's interesting because, like, there's 2 things about your story that's I find particularly fascinating. The fact that you were doing just chatting content before that was a thing, before that was even actually really allowed on Twitch. I think you might have been breaking the terms of service because at the time, you
I love
actually
that.
couldn't you had to be gaming while streaming. Like, you couldn't just sit there and talk. It was actually, like, part of the rules, and, I also find it interesting that, like, you had intention when you started creating content, when you became a streamer, you started streaming, you wanted to leverage this into something that would get you into broadcasting, journalism. And I think like that's something that I think a lot of people, a lot of streamers maybe struggle with is like coming into streaming with the what is the right intention when you start streaming or start being a creator. And maybe one of my hot takes is like you can you can come into streaming and treat it like a business, and you can have career aspirations, you can have financial aspirations, you can want to make money streaming. That's okay. It really just comes down to you could also have fun while you do that. And as long as you're being authentic about it, right? Like it doesn't really it's okay to have, different intentions. It doesn't have to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna pretend that I don't want this to be a thing," when you actually do. I think creators can, like, kind of shoot themselves in the foot when they, kind of get a little bit mixed up in, what is the right intention to stream or not.
That reminds me of the jobs that people were getting because they were streaming. Like, were you gonna become the next CEO? Maybe of your own franchise, your own business, sure, but when people were streaming and thinking about like, okay, is this a means to an end? I know a lot of people became community managers. A lot of people became social media managers or even um, not just content creators for brands, but the person managing the streamers and stuff like that. So that was kind of those were the main pipelines from streaming. Like, okay, I want to stream because I want to show them that one, I'm really into this game, right? Like, two, I can do this. Here are my skills. Three, like, I have that network. Because it seems like in streaming, especially, I feel, I really feel this, and it's interesting because I've never written a piece on this, but I feel very strongly about this during these designated months of like February and like March and like June, a lot of companies are looking for the person who has like the biggest network, like, or the biggest following or like the biggest audience because there is an unwillingness, and this isn't just in streaming, this is just kind of how the world works when it comes to marketing to marginalized people. They will try to find one person and then be like, great, got to catch them all, got to catch them all with this one person. And so I think that was another thing too, to be like, oh, this person has like a lot of women following them. They have a lot of like queer people, LGBTQ people. They have a lot of like BIPOC people following them. Like, this is a good person to put, on a pedestal for the next X amount of days or things like that. So that's kind of what it reminds me of too, is one, the pipelines, and then one, the pipelines, and two, the opportunity to kind of be this diversity and inclusion officer before it was like really popular as well. I know a lot of the streaming events that I've been a part of has definitely helped me with, you know, um, make like business deals because it kind of shows like what I'm capable of. And like a lot of the charity streams I would do, I wasn't really like on a team and I didn't really have like a backing. I was just kind of like, okay, well, Junae is just asking you guys for X amount of money. And no, you don't know me, but please give it to me. And they were like, okay. Like, most of the time they were like, okay, like, I was talking about it earlier, how our streaming journeys are so different, even though we started at the same time. And, I had an idea of what I wanted to do because that's what I was going to school for. That's what I went to school for. And I've always been interested in journalism, always been interested in community, always been interested in being like on air talent. And, on top of that, like educating people along the way and things like that. And I think this is such a fruitful conversation to see like the options of what being a streamer can get you because you are still in the space. I'm in the space a little bit, and I don't want to branch off too much because there is an order of operations to this podcast, but we might be jumping around because we have a lot to talk about.
I know,
um
it is really interesting, like, it's like, for me, streaming when I started, even though I had no intentions of it doing, anything. I was going to go to school to become a physician assistant. I did pre-med in college, and, that was the direction I was going in simply because I enjoyed science and it made sense to do. When I started streaming, things really took off really quickly because I had spent months interacting with people in other communities, not knowing that this was like an effective growth strategy. It's something that I now, teach other folks to really think about is like embed yourself in other communities. Because when you start, you'll have friends, you'll have your first 20 viewers when you hit start streaming. So, for me, it really just kind of spiraled it snowballed in an upward direction. I was partnered a month later. I was invited to a convention a month later. I finally told my parents what I've been doing this whole summer. They had no idea because I was like, just not really thinking of it as a thing. And what I really loved about being a content creator is the entrepreneurship and before I started streaming when I was even 12, 13 years old, I was making websites and flipping them and doing online projects. I was running Google AdWords campaigns for my neighbor's company. I've always kind of had this like, I guess, entrepreneurial spirit, and I really got to
They
find
call
that
it
with
girl
streaming.
boss these days. The kids are calling it girl
That was
boss.
me, as a little 12-year-old girl boss. And so yeah, I think like streaming kind of really had that natural fit of doing what I want to do. And, when you do something for a long time, I think inevitably you get burnt out. I've been burnt out plenty of
Mhm.
times, and you start to look at what's next. And for me, I started to think about my future with being a streamer. Did I want to be 40 years old and streaming and trying to
Yeah.
like play games and stay hip? And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know if this is gonna work, in the long term. And so actually a year ago, I was offered a job at a startup, River, to come on and drive the creation of the product. And wow, a lot I've learned a lot in the last year about myself, about how burnt out I was, and I have completely changed my relationship with being a content creator, where I'm still creating content, but not, in a way where I'm forced to, that I have the pressure to, right? All of the things that come with being a full-time creator, I get to kind of reassess those things and do it my way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, you said a lot. So I'm gonna say them in order of quickness I have for them. Yes. Being a full-time content creator is not that 6, 8 hour stream. It's those 12 hours to edit, to do this, to do that, and to repurpose it, plus the networking, plus the being in other people's streams. And I've realized that I like to help not by views, but by like partnerships, by like opportunities and giving. Because I can't sit in everybody's stream all day. I would love to have 6 different tabs open and unmute, right? I would love to have 6 different tabs open and unmute all day, but I do also want to engage with you guys. But to me, it's like once I find out the streamers and the people, I want to be able to suggest them to different people that I work with. So that's my favorite support, right? Like I said, I was doing like a little bit of co-working stream, but because there was no pressure, like I was literally streaming once a week, but I was also getting work done. It sucks to be an entrepreneur and a streamer and not have those things collide with each other because now I'm doing a 6 to 8 hour stream, right? Because one, it is helping, like whatever donations and things and payouts that I'm getting is helping, but also I have to go, I have to create my workflows, I have to, create my monthly content calendar. I have to still like, have 6 different meetings with half of them resulting in like an actual contract or another deal or like something else. And so, um, yeah, it is really a thing. And I don't know if I miss it. I think when I have a game to play, I go back and I'll stream it. And it doesn't matter how many people come through because I have a game to play, and I'm not scouring like the internet or like my inbox for the next game to play. Two, that's really interesting that you got partnered a month later. That's really interesting because this is another point of contention. Like, I'm really grateful to be having this conversation, and I cannot wait to share this podcast with the people because I think it's going to be really encouraging. And I think, we've come such a long way. And I just had a memory pop into my head. It's really interesting that you got partnered a month later after streaming. How long? You're streaming 2014 and then you're partnered in 2014?
Yep.
That is bananas. BANA.
No,
A-N-A-S.
it was a different time, like, there
Okay.
was a handful of creators
Okay.
that, like, existed on the platform,
Yeah.
and everyone knew each other. You knew every creator on Twitch,
I
and
didn't
you all
have that
rated each other.
experience.
Really?
I didn't have that.
Really?
I didn't have that experience at all. So, one, when Discord came around, I did start using Discord, right? But I think that's 2017, 2016. So we're talking 2 years later. So when Discord came around, I did start using Discord. I did start building because one, you talk about seeing someone on Twitch that you wanted to watch. I didn't get that. I didn't get that. So then I was like, well, I'm going to be that person. And that's how I started finding other Black women who also play video games, which was the first time in my life because I wasn't really into gaming when I was younger, beyond like my sisters and stuff that we played out the house. So to me, Black women have always gamed. But then, like going to school and kind of seeing, like, even some of the people that I was playing with, they were into sports games, but I wanted to play Assassin's Creed, and so then that narrowed it down. There is definitely like a diagram of different types of like gamers, and then the more niche that you get, you're going to interact with like different people. So one, I didn't really have anybody I wanted to watch until the people who came to watch me started streaming, and then I was like, oh, this is really cool. And so then now we're watching other Black women play video games, we're watching other women play video games, and then we're all playing together, right? And then now that we can do it multi-streaming a different way, now we're multi-streaming together, or like we're all playing it together, and we're doing like a let's play. So I didn't have that experience, and I had been on Twitch very consistently for years, right? Like we're going, and I remember I started working with this company. I started working with this company and they had access to someone at Twitch. And I was like, hey, let me just ask you some questions. And I was like, we'll use my page as an example, but like if people are trying to do X, Y, and Z, this is when I was still in the community. And I was like, how can we get this information to people? Because there had started to be like this campaign for like why aren't Black women being partnered, like Ebonic Sims came along, and I know Munchkin Doom, which came from Mixer and then was at Twitch, and then Facebook and things like that. So there was like a really big conversation, and at that point these women were absolutely putting up numbers. Me, no, I wasn't really putting up numbers like that, but I also don't know how long they've been streaming, but they just had the good especially like the Sims content. Oh man, people were eating that up and like doing the mods. And so here I am talking to this person on from Twitch, and he was like, "Are you partnered?" And I was like, "No." Like I literally was like, "No." Like why would I be partnered? And he's like, "No, you definitely should have been partnered a long time ago." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because I didn't even have like 1,000 people, right? There started to be like rules and guidelines into it. I didn't hit 1,000 people on Twitch until it has to be 4 years ago. Maybe I started hitting 1,000 people because one, I started being involved in everybody else's community, and I kind of was like, if I'm not gonna be like, why am I gonna give you guys so many hours? And I'm not gonna be partnered and like whoever you're looking for. And then on top of that, there was that campaign of like, oh, more Black women are like on here, and we feel like we are not getting like the views, and not even the views, because people, we knew who was going to come through the streams, but we weren't getting the recognition, or something earlier that you said of like putting on the same people. Like that's really, I have never heard that before. Like, I have never heard that before, and so I just wanted to bring that up because that's different, and I didn't even know that that was, like, possible until you just said that. So, like, with your experience and then what I just said, like, what would I don't know, like, what's your reaction to that? Like, not trying to what do you think about what I said? Because you surprised me. Just now. That was
Yeah.
new information. So, and have you heard about this? Like, did you know that was happening like on the platform. And no, you're not Mrs. Twitch, right? Like you don't speak for Twitch, like we're not making you their spokesperson, but just asking from your perspective and your
Mm.
experience as a partnered streamer for the past 11 years. I really didn't know that. I'm shocked. I'm going to be quiet now.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, looking back in 2014, I don't remember that, like, being like, that happening or that being talked about really. For me personally, it was I was in playing the survival games, I was bouncing around, full-time variety, the new game comes out, I'm playing the thing. DayZ was really the game that, like, grew a lot for me. I was getting over 100 plus viewers, and people were sticky. People were a lot stickier than they are now. And there was a time where, Twitch was finally laxing on their, the requirements for partnership. And actually when I applied, I got rejected. And they said, whatever you think this is a mistake, you can like reply whatever. And so I did, and I wrote a resume and I listed all the things that I had done and accomplished. I had raised money for St. Jude. I had been invited to a convention. I'd done this and that, and just kind of outlining what I wanted to do with partnership, what this was going to do for me. And so this is some of the advice I give creators when they apply is like, just outline your accolades and talk about what you're going to do, with what does it actually mean for you. But I think like looking back, there was not great, representation on the platform. Yes, the platform was smaller. Maybe they didn't have the right systems in place, but also I think like really it wasn't a focal point. I
That's
think that
true.
really came to light in 2020 when we had not only across the US and the world like paying attention to the Black Lives Matter movement, but also just within Twitch itself. And, the call for a Twitch blackout and really paying attention to the lack of opportunities, I think, especially for Black women, the lack of representation at the top. It's apparent, it's in the numbers, like you can see it. So, I definitely think like there probably were opportunities that you were not given that you should have been given. And I think, you know, things have definitely improved. I know Twitch has now we have Unity guilds. We have the Twitch Black Guild, the Women's Guild, the Pride Guild, which is great. It gives a lot of opportunities to diverse groups, and I love that. I think it's a really good thing that Twitch is doing. Um, but that's 10 years later. It's a little bit late to
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
actually making these opportunities happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that's true, right? That there wasn't, because some of the newer technology that Twitch added was like I was streaming before you could put like, oh, closed captions, right? Because now they have tags. I don't even know if people remember that. Oh my gosh. So
Oh
Twitch didn't
yeah.
always have tags to be like,
Yeah.
oh, this is who I am, or this is like a safe space for you to come and just like be this, right? But with great power comes great responsibility, because now people are looking for those tags to troll under, right? And even using things like hashtags, like I was on the stream team for like Black Girl Gamers and like helping like find other streamers and things like that. And so I know that you could start making a list of people, right? Like your stream team, like you could make like a list of people. Or when you were able to start like hosting people, I that's so funny, all the knowledge that you realize you have when you like start really getting down to the nitty gritty. But all these things that were added to be more unified were added like way later,
Yeah.
like
Post
way
Amazon
later.
acquisition, there was the discovery on Twitch in 2014 was you find a game and it's the most viewers. If you have the most viewers, you're going to get more viewers. And it was a kingmaker approach. And, still very much is like that today. But Twitch has done a lot to really improve discovery, to make it easy to find people that you're looking for, that people that look like you, people that you want to watch, communities that you want to be a part of. I think it's definitely improved. I think there's also just like stars that have come out, like Kai Senat and what he's done. I think has been really remarkable and groundbreaking for streaming and for what being a streamer actually could be, at that level. I think that things have definitely improved. I think Twitch has made discovery better. And, it's a double edged sword because the platform has grown and it is saturated and people are struggling to be seen. Um, Twitch has to figure out the best way to help a viewer find the community they're looking for so that they stick around and, that helps everyone grow.
Yeah. I started to because partner seemed like so far off, right? Until years later when I had that conversation with someone at Twitch, I started to be an advocate for what you could do outside of partnering, right? And then Restream came out and it's like stream on all these platforms. And then Twitch was like, no, our content's our content. You guys can stream somewhere else, but not simultaneously, or that
They
would like
finally
break.
figured that one out, didn't they? Now you can stream wherever, and they
Yeah.
realize maybe it's not such a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. They were like, "Hey, we're actually top dogs, so you need to figure that out." And it was like, "Oh, I have to have loyalty to someone who," you know what I mean? Like, if you really read through the affiliate terms and conditions, is it really like, is it really for like, is this really for me? So, yeah, I started to be on an unspoken campaign of the things that you could do without being partnered because Twitch flew me out for TwitchCon, like, and paid for everything. And so I kind of was like, well, if I'm already getting all this stuff, do I really need to try to stress myself? Like, it would look nice, right? Because at a time in the gaming industry where people are getting jobs off of clout, right? Like, and we're not talking about a specific type of clout. We're just talking about clout in general. Clout helps you get seen. It helps you, it could work in your favor for sure. So at a time where people are getting jobs off of clout, I was like, dang, I kind of need that. I was like, dang, I kind of need that. I kind of need that. Like, yeah, I'm partner because it meant something. Like, and now kind of like there was another campaign push on Twitter at the time, where once again there was a bunch of black women who didn't have a blue check, right? And then one day they just woke up and one after another, blue check, blue check, blue check, blue check, blue check, like, right? And so that's just kind of like mirroring kind of what happened over on Twitch. I still don't have a blue check, but now I'm kind of like I'm okay with that because now people are like paying for that blue check. So
Yeah, if you want to
something,
pay $8, you could get one.
and it's not that serious. I know I'm me, right? I don't think I'm a iRobot account or anything, but you know, at a time where like that meant something, even though no one could really say what it meant, right? Like these checks were important, like these verifications were really important. And whatever it did, it just sweetened the deal for whoever you were talking to be like, oh yeah, well, this person's about what they say that they're about. And so that was one of the reasons that I wanted to, but all of the work that I'd started putting in, being able to be like, at TwitchCon or be like, it opened up doors to be able to go to a lot of places without having to have my community funded or without funding it for like myself, and then to say that I've worked with this person and that I've gotten with this company, and all without having even 1K on Twitch, being able to work with like Corsair, Logitech, like different type of organizations like that. And so to come back to being like our journeys are very much so different, but still able, you can get what you want out of it. And me being a journalist and keeping my journalistic integrity this whole time, I think also helped with it. And then I feel like you started looking at streaming as a business, right? You started looking at like how you could do it and that if it was going to take off, like what's the best way to approach it. And then um, you've been able to also make waves in that sense. And so I think it's great that we could like kind of share side by side because I haven't had like another streamer like on here. Let me recap and make sure I'm not lying. But yeah, I haven't really had like another streamer on here and someone who, I don't want to say out of the trenches, but you know what I mean. Like you're not like, oh, can we wrap this up? Because my social battery, I gotta have it for later, to deal
Yeah.
with whatever that stream is gonna throw at me. So that's really cool. And you were talking about it. So our paths did cross in 2020 when people were starting to look at more inclusiveness um, into the gaming industry. I think in a lot of industries, but because we're in the gaming industry, we're going to be able to experience that some more. And we were talking a little bit about it earlier. So we were talking about there was some simultaneous actions happening. So during I June, I think is when George Floyd did get murdered. And then there was another uptick of Black Lives Matter because it kind of started when I was in college with Trayvon Martin. And I just remember that there was just some things that were happening back to back. So there was like Trayvon Martin, and then there just started to be more and more innocent Black people being murdered. So a lot of people were sorry, trigger warning, sorry, trigger warning. Shoulda did that before, but so there was a little bit of uh more eyes, just more people having the space to be more open to Black content creators, Black artists, Black just whatever the case is. And so I remember that, and I'm not really sure how you found me, but I remember that you asked me and another content creator to do um, like a quick show just to talk about like Black content creators in general. So one, I guess I should ask, like, how'd you find me? Because I don't think I ever asked that. And
God, I don't even know. I don't
yeah,
even remember
right.
at the
That was
time. Like,
5 years now.
it was
Like,
probably like I probably just saw something you were writing about or something,
yeah,
or um, I think Red Infamy was on Mixer, and there was the whole Mixer was shutting down, and there was also like allegations about some I think some of the employees not like something was going on that was like potentially racially motivated or something, and um I think Red Infamy was streaming on Mixer at the time. Yeah, so I don't remember exactly,
yeah,
um but it was probably one of those things if I had to guess.
yeah. That makes sense. So do that was a plan, and then we actually never did it because both of us were like, we're not going to do anything that's going to make us feel uncomfortable or for the wrong reasons. And that was our first time actually being like, oh, okay, now I know who a Loco is. Right, a Loco. Now I know who like a Loco is and things like that. And so I think that we kind of just went on from there to just kind of do our separate things until today, where we actually have a chance to talk and like compare. And to be honest with you, during that conversation, this conversation couldn't have been present. There was a lot happening at that time. And I remember turning down things during that time because I did feel like, and it happens. Don't get me wrong, right? Like, I don't know if you've also experienced this during like Women's Month, where people are like, "Oh my gosh, we need a woman," and you're like,
Come here, woman.
yeah, come here, and this happens like every February where it's like, oh, we need more Black people, or when AAPI, LGBTQ, like anytime it's like, oh, right, it's like 2 days before, oh yeah, we should really do this, and it's like, we know it's coming, we know that you are going to like pop up. And so it's like, one, for everything that had already been like transpiring. And then a lot of people were like, oh, you have a community, or your name keeps popping up whenever I type, especially because I was a part of Black Girl Gamers. So when you type in Black Girl Gamers, like on Twitter, because at that point, like we should talk about the what Twitter is what LinkedIn was trying to be at that time, where people would look for people, and be able to get like a sense of them and then be like, oh, these are the people that we want to work with. Like, because I had like Black Girl Gamers, like admin or something, right? And then I had like, oh, here are these bylines that I wrote, and here, like, as seen on da 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 da, like how many ever characters, it would let you. Um, I get that, like, sometimes it's like, oh, let's like flood this person with these things. And then it's like, yeah, but it's not really like a working relationship, right? Like, you want to signal boost. And I think, it's a difficult thing because as a Black woman who is a content creator, was like a more avid streamer, it was kind of difficult because here I am constantly going back to 2014 Janae, and my chats being flooded with, I haven't seen any Black women streaming. And here you are. Like, that's how, because I wasn't playing anything popular. I never fully fell into the trap of buying that $60 game that day. You know what I mean? Like, I was always looking at indies. And so it's like, you weren't ever really checking for this game. You know what I mean? And you weren't ever really looking for me. So it's like, I'm getting an influx of stuff, and it's like, how can I do this and make it work for the good of stepping forward, right? To make it like a step forward, or do I have to say no because something's going to misinterpret it? And as we talk about social media and streaming and what it's become, and just the s- uh, social public court that it's become, of like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Like, okay, if you do this, it's like, oh, well, I did this and that for that. And I don't need anybody to be like a stan of me, right? I don't need Janae can never do any wrong. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Because I don't even do that. As my number one fan, as my biggest fan, I'd be like, oh, wait, that might have been messed up. It's a difficult process just to kind of go through. And so, like, during that time, it was like, oh my gosh, here everyone comes and they want to do this. And I'm not saying this is particularly what happened with when we were supposed to talk. I think it was just kind of like, this doesn't feel good, and I'm not fully sure what's going on, and I'm not gonna do this. Um, which, yeah, I don't it's just a thing you have to navigate. Like, it's a thing you have to navigate, whether you are a marginalized streamer or, a certain content creator. You always have to think about, is this what I want my brand to be associated with? And, does it do more harm than it does good? And I think being in that space around the time where I had like a lot of pressure, it was just easier to like not be wondering, or concerned, I guess, with that. Since that was like our first time meeting, but that was a lot of my first time meeting a lot of people that I literally don't talk to anymore. Like, even people who were like very forward at the time, of like, feeling like it was very progressive, but it was a bit more performative. Like, I didn't hear from them, like, after they were able to, like, put me on, like, this pedestal and spotlight and be like, "Wow, we really care," you know? So, that's the thought process behind, like, why sometimes these things don't happen, or, what does it look like on the other side when, you know the intentions that you had, and you know that, because I really didn't hear the full story, right? Till today, when I was like, "Oh," I'm like, I think something was going on, but I definitely remember just the heaviness of what was happening, like, outside the gaming industry, and how it was affecting everyone, no matter what they were doing at that time. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I think there's something there's a lot to say here, actually, not something. I think the first thing is, like, totally understanding your perspective and being selective. And I think, like, creators, we're in Black History Month, we have Women's History Month coming up next month. Being selective of the opportunities you pick, and, not sucking all your bandwidth away to, help a company look good. Essentially is what it usually boils down to, is like, hey, we wanna, like, look like we're supporting you during this month. Um, and, I think, like, also in 2020, during that time, like you said, there was a lot going on. And, if you don't have the bandwidth, if someone doesn't have the bandwidth to come on a show, you're getting an influx of opportunities, it's overwhelming. You should, you should reserve your space, your energy for what you can and what you want to do. And so I totally understand, like, yeah, not being like, oh, I don't know this person. They want me to come on a show. Like, okay, but also, like, I don't know, too many questions, right? There's too much in the air. Like, are they, like, just doing this because, or are they trying to, are they genuine about it or not? And I think, like, as time progresses, we're at a very interesting time 5 years later where now there's an undoing, a public undoing of a lot of these, um what now seem as performative measures to, uplift marginalized voices. And I think it's it's always been important, but I think it's, like, even more important now to just remember, like, that wasn't just for 3 months, that you were supposed to, like, make sure, like, look out for your counterparts, to look out for, the voices that are not being heard, and make sure that they're in the room with you, to give them space to speak. That's something that I think it just becomes more and more prevalent, and something that I've personally always been mindful of as a woman. Like, I know, like, and not what you've gone through, but I know, like, what it's like to feel lesser, or to not be given, like, the same opportunities. And I always want to make sure in the forefront, like, that is anything and everything that I can do. I always kind of keep that in mind. If I'm asked to be on a show or something, I try to make sure that, my friends are taken care of. Um, so I think, like, I feel like what you said, really kind of, it's sad. It's sad. It's true, but it's sad that it's like these people I don't even talk to anymore, or, they were just there for a few months just to, they had they put a little black avatar on on their profile picture and thought they were doing something. Um,
Ooh, let's pause right there because this sponsorship is absolutely perfect. This episode is brought to you by the Govee Flow Pro light bars as well as the TV backlit wall bars. And I had these Govee lights before they were popping, okay? If you want to learn more about the Govee lights as well as the TV backlight walls, please go to the link in the description. But once again, after the episode because we have to finish this. We have something really interesting coming up after this ad. So go check it out, see how you can upgrade your space or give your living room that ambiance that it's always been missing. All right, back to you guys. Yeah, it's true.
you
It's
know,
and they're
like,
very proud of it too, and then you just have to, like, eat that, right? Like, you
um,
have to eat that because while it's annoying, it's not the end of the world, and there are, like, bigger fish to fry in that manner, and,
yeah,
an example of that from my end was all of the things that I would do in, like, lieu of being able to either turn down the opportunities, right? So, that's when I started, like, really ramping up with my charity streams, and I think I've done a charity stream for St. Jude maybe, like, once or twice, but when I get the opportunity to, I do it for something local or I do it for something global. Like I created a t-shirt and I was like, okay, X amount of funds go to like SARS or this product. If you can either give directly here or like if you buy this, like when I wasn't streaming, how could I still give, to this community? And I think that was is more important. Than being able to be like, "Hey, like, I was here," right? Like, "Hey, I was here and I did this thing." Like, personally, that's great, but also, personally, I'm an activist, and I would put a lot of that into my streaming, and it was nice to be able to do something for the cause, right? It was
Yeah.
nice to be able to be a part of it. And like, even now, do I still have to like create a charity stream for particular for the same type of organizations? No, but I still get to do it, and I still want to, like, partner with people to do it, because there's so much to give, and there's so many people who are in need. There's so many places to give, and so many people who are in need. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that I think that's the cool part about being a content creator, is that you can be yourself. And I know there's a lot of things that tell you to be someone else. Like, I was never the person to try to put on full cosplay, because that was a lot, but somebody has the time to do that, and we applaud them. Like, I've seen it, or, make their stream the cosplay, right? Or, yeah, make their cosplay the stream. So I think being authentic to yourself definitely helps you to mitigate that burnout, because when you're trying to be someone else, like, that's really rough. Like,
Yeah.
when I first started getting subs, I was hand painting people's favorite characters on, like, these very small canvases. And can I paint? No. Can I draw? No, but you're welcome. Like, I would literally be like, "What's your address?" Like, I'm sending you, like, these little paint things, and that was like a part of my personal brand, because I love arts and crafts. And so it's like, well, why don't I just, like, do this thing for the people who support me? And the cool part was that some of them were local, so I could just, like, see them at the next event and be like, "Here you go. Thanks for supporting." Um, but yeah, I do want to talk about some of these practices that do you have a little bit more time, or like.
But you want me to reveal the insider secrets to being a creator? Yes, of course.
So yeah, but I want to go through it in a timeline, right? I want to go through 2014 to like 2020 to 2025. Not exactly the same amount of, like, years in between, but just that gradual change in strategy, right? So, um, like you pretty much said, though, like, if you were playing at that point and you had the most views, that was a way to, like, grow your community, as well as talking in other communities. That is how you grow your community as well. So, when people were watching, just a speculation, right? Because you just started then. When people were getting into Twitch then, do you think they were looking for skill, or do you think they were looking for, like, that just kind of laughs? Because for me, it was all laughs. Like, I don't, if you guys wanted top-notch skills and, like, IDAR, which was platform soccer indie game, you weren't gonna get it. You were not gonna get it, you know what I mean? But
Oh
laughs
yeah,
and
I
jokes
was
for sure.
no skills here, honestly. No, I mean like I definitely was I'm above average in games, but really it was like a big thing of my community to like it was we really highlighted the fails, what not to do in games. You know, it was really all about the entertainment and the community aspect of it and finding the most bizarre ways to fail and die in video games. That was my bread and butter.
Yeah.
I think that there was always an interest in skilled gameplay as well. I think both of those things have existed. Actually, it's kind of the way I divide creators is like, are you skillful or are you entertainment? What kind of content are you providing your audience? And you can be both, right? But I think really just kind of like understanding like you don't have to be the best in games to succeed even today. Um, you know, but you do have to be either educational or entertaining in some way.
That is true. And that's true for content in general, right? Like, when I made my TikTok, it was literally for me. Did I expect ever to anyone be like, "Oh my gosh, this is hilarious?" No. I put it out because I thought it was funny and I wanted to go back and laugh at myself. And it's doing exactly what I expect it to do. So I think that's true in any content. So, from when I started streaming, I began to see later on that people were starting to do 24-hour streams. I don't know how prevalent that was. I know there were streamathons and, like, subathons and all the athons going on, but then I started seeing people do, like, 24-hour streaming, and I was like, "Maybe it's time for me to leave the game," because I don't want people to think I'm gonna do this. I did start doing some challenges, right? Like the cinnamon challenge, or, like, I drank, like, a shot of hot sauce, like, things like that, but that wasn't really that unsafe, It's one thing if I'm really engaged in the game and I'm literally playing for 12 hours, because we do that sometimes. As gamers, I think that's a very natural reaction, to be like, "Oh, man, like, no, I really gotta finish this, or I really gotta get through this." I think and I don't think anyone should force themselves to do that. Like, if you're just on and you're like, one more game," like, I think that's how that happens, but to see people starting to do, like, 24 hours, I was like, "Oh, that's not safe." I was like, "Oh, that's really not safe, like, maybe they shouldn't do that." What are some unsafe practices you've seen since you started streaming that you would, like, just not recommend, like, whatsoever? Or have you ever done a 24-hour stream, or
Yeah, so 24-hour streams, I think when in the early days of Twitch, it was almost a rite of passage to do one. You had to
Okay,
say that you've done one. So I have done a 24-hour
okay.
stream where I was awake for the full 24 hours. It was hell.
Yeah,
Like I am not someone who like really would stay up until 3, 4 a.m. playing video games. Like I go to sleep. Like, I go to sleep at 10 PM nowadays. I go to sleep, like we talked about before the show, when the sun is down, I go down. Like, it's dark, I sleep. So it was really hard, and the last, like, few hours, I was, getting, like, kinda sick, right? Because you, like, can't eat, but your stomach feels weird.
yeah,
I can't handle it. I did make it through, I did survive, felt like crap, and was like, "Okay, never again." Nowadays, I think it's actually changed a little bit. I think you see subathons more often,
yeah,
but I think what people are doing is they're going to bed and they're running their stream and they're
yeah.
just running replays or mini games or whatever. They're
Or they're
like some
sleep
people throw up TV
streaming,
shows.
right?
Yeah. Or
They're
they're sleeping in the background.
Yeah,
And so I think like the I'm gonna stay awake for 24 hours or 32 hours or however long you can last. I feel like actually maybe that's like declined in place of, well, this is gonna be like a 200-hour stream, but I am gonna sleep every night. It's
yeah,
just the stream's gonna be running
yeah.
24/7.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good. I
From what
haven't
I've
heard
seen,
that
yeah.
one yet, but like I said, I'm not still deep into the trenches of, like, streaming, where and I get it, because the longer you're up, and with a lot of things, the algorithm is gonna change of how, like, it suggests things, but I get the reason why. You're like, if I'm on here, they will see me, right? You're like, if I stay, I can get, like, the most engagement, because they tell you, oh, if you stream for 2 hours, you're just getting started, right? You really want to stream for those 4 hours, to where they can push out your stream notifications, people can kind of, like, come through and see what you're doing. And honestly, I once again will be that rebel, because I'm like, you guys are getting an hour out of me today, or an hour and a half, and I'm here because I love you guys, like, but that's really all that I have for you. So I'm really happy to hear that, because I don't know, like, people were just doing some outlandish things, like, that's probably the top one, because I'm like, "Oh, you will not make it." Like, you do so many of those, you will not make it. Maybe you shouldn't do that. So,
Yeah. I mean,
um
I'd also add that there's been a rise in I think the rise of IRL streaming brought on
yeah,
new dangers of like
yeah.
doxing yourself or getting to
Yeah,
dangerous
yeah,
situations, getting arrested,
yeah,
and also streaming while driving was
yeah,
a big thing that is very controversial. Like, can you stream while you drive? Oh, you can, but you can't look at chat. And like, what does
yeah,
that qualify as looking at chat? And people are doing dangerous things while driving. And so that I think is, it's also this like constant like trying to one up someone else, like going for the
Yeah.
highest number of subs or the longest stream or this is where I think it starts to get really dangerous. I saw someone, I don't, they weren't on Twitch, they were on like YouTube, and they were trying to like stay awake in like a closet for I don't know, like the record or whatever that record is, like days of not sleeping and being in like a box, and they were visibly unwell. And I was like, this has to be taken down. Like
No,
you
yeah.
cannot allow this
Yeah.
to happen. Like someone is going to die
Yeah,
on
get
stream,
don't
and
get
that's
me
gonna
wrong,
be a
I
problem.
love a Guinness World Record. I really do, but, like, maybe for the amount of ping pong balls you could hold in your mouth, and even then, with medical attention standing by, like, not in your
Yeah.
room by yourself, but yeah, I think it's safe to say that clout chasing has made people a bit unwell. The adrenaline of like being seen so many times and then the validations of likes or seeing the chat and like the subs,
Yeah.
that dopamine, like it was all very much so constructed to be addicted. Not we talking about the psychology of it, but
Yeah, I mean, like, how else do you get discovered? How do you
yeah,
stand out these
yeah,
days when everyone can create content? I think
yeah,
TikTok really opened the door for you have a phone, you can be a creator, you can just record. It doesn't even have to be edited or anything,
yeah,
like
yeah,
you just record things and be a personality. And so now everyone is a creator. So how do you become known and recognized, and
yeah.
how do you gain like some sort of notoriety? You gotta like, I don't know, endanger yourself, I guess, to make a headline.
Yeah, that's it. That's really rough. That's really rough. It's so funny because I think about the people who like are streaming and then like at some point they have like a family or something and it's like going back and kind of watching like some of their vods or stuff that they saved. That was a really big reason, not because I'm like concerned I'm going to do something crazy on stream. I'm sure I did, but I was a teacher and I had an after school program centered around like gaming, and there was coming in at Gamergate, it was like, well, you probably just shouldn't exist, right? Like, you probably just shouldn't even be a woman in gaming. Like, don't let us catch you at a GameStop because we're going to ask you, the last 5 games of whomever, of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And, when they first started to make sure you're a real fan. And I just remember thinking, like, I know what people are saying are getting views. I'm pretty sure you were around. Twitch has a crazy history. There was a point where people were just doing like live porn on Twitter. On Twitter too, but like on Twitch, you know? And I was like, I don't think y'all supposed to do that. One, y'all not marking y'all channels. One, you weren't supposed to do that. Two, you guys are not marking your channels. Three, there was no NSFW. It was just like, oh, mature content for like, I'm gonna play Mortal Kombat and it's rated this for the violence or something like that. But people were just doing like straight up like I'll never forget like seeing screenshots of people opening like Twitch and it was just like suggested channels and I was like, okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm really grateful that I haven't had to experience that. But it was just like I didn't even know it was possible. You're like, are people really seeing this? And it's like, yeah. So I understand what's going on anything that's accessible can have NSFW content, right? Not safe for work content. And so because I knew that kids are always going to be curious, they'd be like, "What's your Snapchat?" You're like, "Do you want me to go to jail? What do you mean? What's my Snapchat?" Like, I'm not giving you my Snapchat. Like, no, you're not even supposed to be using that. Like, you're under 13. Like, you're not even supposed to be using this platform, let alone like you're gonna be my friend. No. So knowing that kids get curious and that they're going to look you up and that my name was just kind of easily searchable. As long as you knew how to spell it, I guess I've been using the same name. I was like, I really want to make some, rated G content, at worst PG, right? Well, E, right? Does that change when it's like Y7 to E? Anyways, that was just a random thought
E
in my
is
head.
that's the video game
Yeah,
ratings, and G and that's the movie ratings, I
that's the
think, the
movie
movie,
ones. Yeah, I
different.
think so. I think so. And
Should
then
just unify this, make it more straightforward for
yeah,
us,
because
like
what are we even talking about? Like, that I really wanted to make rated E content, right? Being like, unless I was talking about something serious that happened, like I had to create some content around the person who shot up a Madden tournament a couple years back. And that's not very rated E, but it's also like this is important for everyone to know. Like if this is what you're going to do, like maybe just be on the lookout because it's not impossible for things to happen wherever you are. So it was just really important to me, like as a teacher, that I was able to make that content. It's not like I wanted to be Miss Rachel. It's not like I was like, here's how you play, but I would play things from my childhood as well, like playing Spyro or playing like Bug Snacks. And I was like, wow, that's an introduction to like baby horror. Like your kid can play this, but not necessarily going through not necessarily like diving deep into like children content. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's not
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be like
I was
for
the same
me.
way when I started too. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to make family-friendly content,
Yeah.
um, because that was like Co-Carnage, like I mentioned, I really looked up to him. He cultivated a very friendly, positive, and safe community, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, like, I'm gonna do that as well. I'm not gonna swear on stream." The games may be mature, but we're
Yeah.
gonna, like, keep the language clean, and it actually really helped with, like, not having a lot of toxicity, because
Yeah.
you get to build your channel and your mods as role models to how everyone's going to act, and you're not going to have people coming in and being like, oh, f you, f this game, oh god, this game
Yeah.
sucks, because
Yeah.
people just have generally a more friendlier mindset, I think, when you as the creator, as head of the channel, like, you're in charge of that, you're directing that. If you have a
That's
toxic
true.
community, it's probably because of something that you've done, or that you're allowing your mods to facilitate usually.
I never really thought about that, the correlation to that. I know people can make it feel like, it's a safe space, like family friendly, but I never really thought about it. Maybe it was just like in the back of my head because I never really thought about that. Like, some stuff you don't let slide and you're like, we're never doing that. Um, because people would like curse in chat, but like I wouldn't do it and I'd be like, whatever. But it wasn't anything like like egregiously
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you just be like, oh, I mean, you can't police other people. Like you can't be like, don't well, I mean you could, but it's like, uh, but like I don't. So do what you want. But yeah, that was important to me just to, do that. So that's really interesting to hear because I don't think anybody deliberately tries to, right? Unless you're like, oh, like, people do deliberately try to make, um, content for kids, but I don't think anyone tries to be like super family friendly. I think they're kind of just like, oh, especially if they're not actively planning out what they want to do. If they're just like, oh, I'm just playing and whoever comes by comes by. But that's also one of the things that's been added to Twitch is like the age range and stuff like that. And so yeah, it's a good thing though. Twitch has done a lot of good things. They've done some questionable things, but they're a company. Like, what are you
They're a
gonna
company.
do? Like, what are
Yeah.
you gonna do about that?
Yeah, I think, like, when it comes to, you know, the direction of my channel, and, like, yeah, I was a family-friendly gamer, and that was pretty easy to do. And, I had parents who had kids in the background or kids on their lap watching, and that was fine. And I think, like, I kinda moved away from that terminology, because when I pivoted to doing more just chatting content, which was an evolution not only for me, but for Twitch as a platform, where, when we started, you weren't even allowed, you had to play games. You were, like, forced. You stream on Twitch, you must play games.
Yeah,
You weren't even allowed to, like, just sit and talk and not game. And now just chatting is the most popular category on Twitch. It's massive, right? And so as that grew into a thing, I started doing more just chatting content, where I was like, oh, like, whenever I start my stream, I always warmed up and, would talk to chat and how are you, get into random topics. Usually it's food that I would get into talking about. And, that started to become hours of my stream. I'm streaming 6 hours and almost half of it now I've just talked.
Yeah.
And, when I started to do more creator education, I just started to pivot more and more into just chatting, and now, like, I fully lean into that where I stream once a week. It's a 3-hour segment. It's a talk show where I'm talking about, the latest news in streaming, content creation, tech, games, adjacent. And so being a family-friendly creator, who is that? Who am I targeting at that point, right? Like, do
Yeah.
I still keep it clean, for
Yeah.
the most part, but we also talk about really serious topics. Like, we talk about politics, we talk about the real world. We talk about, like, issues and how I really feel about things, and I feel like being family friendly is great, and it was easy for me because it's like putting on a professional hat and not swearing, that's fine. And now I get to be more lenient to my opinions and how I feel and what I'm going through, and it's more like an authentic, "This is me," and, like, if you don't have the bandwidth for that today, I understand.
Yeah.
But, there is, I think now more than ever, a need for community to come together and, really sometimes just talk about things sucking, and just, like, kinda letting it vent. It's maybe a little bit therapeutic, to, like, go and stream and just, like, vent for 3 hours. But yeah, I think, like, when you are building a community, it's something you need to really keep in mind is, you're a leader, and how you cultivate and present yourself, that's how your community is going to act as well.
Okay. So this is a great segue into giving us some juicy premium tips. As a content creator, people can often struggle with what consistency looks like. So I want to start with that. And then I also want to hear some things that you think are important, along with it. So, what would you say to someone who's like, oh man, like, oh, I'll be the case study.
Mhm.
I'll be the case study. So I do co-working streams, but obviously that's not something I want to chop up and put on my YouTube. I haven't uploaded on YouTube in months. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, not really. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I could just do so much better. And consistency is, right now the YouTube algorithm is telling me post 2 to 3 times a week. And I got to do a short and I got to do tags and I got to do SEO. And then not only do I have to put it on YouTube, but so people don't get bored with my content, I have to repurpose it. So now I have to put it on TikTok and I have to put it on TikTok and make sure it's not technically the same video, but it is the same video so I can do less work. What would you say about that? Like consistency, content creating, and just the overall process of it. And is consistency the same for everybody? Is it different? Is it your own pace? Or should you force yourself to, you know, upload 2 to 3 times a week, even if you don't have it?
Yeah, I mean, so, like I said, I have many soapboxes for these type of things. Consistency is an interesting one because when it comes to live streaming, especially if you're trying to grow a channel, consistency is very important. Like, if you want to grow, you need people to come back and you need people to find you. And if you're not streaming, people are not going to find you. And if you don't stream consistently, people are not going to come back. It's like if you're just streaming sporadically, it's going to be really hard for people to catch you when you happen to be live. If you're live 7 a.m. one day and then you're live 3 days later at 8 p.m., you're probably not even hitting the same audience. So, I think consistency looks a lot of different ways. I think really like kind of understanding at the core what you want to do with what you're trying to do. Like, are you being consistent because that's what you're supposed to do and you're just trying to churn everything out and grow every platform and watch all the numbers go up? Or do you have actual goals in mind? Like, you're making a podcast. Do you need to post 2 to 3 times a week? Does that even make sense to do? Can you even keep that up? I think it's worse to promise that you're gonna have this schedule and fail on that than it is to say, you know what? I work full time. I've got other obligations. I have a family. I'm going to school. You're going to get content when I can make it. And I think really kind of understanding like what is within your bandwidth, as we talked about earlier, like really understanding what it is you want to do, what are your goals, and what are the bite-sized steps that you can get there, and also understanding within the time constraints and the bandwidth that you have, what are the most important things to do. I think a lot of people get caught up in process, and you have to be consistent, you have to post on all the channels, you have to use all the platforms, you have to make a Twitter post without it thinking about why they're doing it and what it's serving. So, just dialing back and thinking, I want to do this and I want to grow and I want to do this for this reason. And what are the easiest wins that I can get? What is the low hanging fruit that's gonna help me succeed? Um, if you can make one show a week and repurpose that content, which is something I talk a lot about, that's a great way to, you take one long form video and you grab a clip. You can post that clip on, if you want to hit all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, you can hit all those things with the same video. And live streaming is another layer of that. You stream for 3, 4 hours. Now you have some good content in there. And if you don't, maybe think about like again, go back to like why are you streaming? What are you trying to get out of this? And like what purpose are you serving? Can you do anything with your 3, 4 hour time block to, you know, think about how you could use some of this for YouTube? Maybe plan some of your content, plan some of your streams. Maybe that's a little bit more of a hot opinion of like actually, think about what you're going to do that day and how that can play into the bigger picture. Take your 4-hour stream, you find like a 10-minute tutorial that you carved out during that stream, you knocked it out. That's great for YouTube. Take clips of that, post it on shorts. Now with one piece of content, you're able to hit all your different funnels without having to, record a separate video for YouTube and stream, and record a TikTok, which is a different type of content you're doing over there, and also you're on Twitter, all these different things that really, I think, become more of a distraction than, actually serving purpose to your goals.
Ooh, that was a good one. Okay.
That was hard to be
So
concise, so it probably wasn't that concise, but I tried my best. This is why
Loco's like, this could have
yeah,
been an
this is how my
hour
brain
long
works.
conversation. Like this could be
I
uh
did warn you. I warned you about these questions. They're dangerous questions.
okay, so another one. People are always
Yeah.
saying your niche, your niche, your niche, your niche, your niche. What are they talking about? I just want to play games. I just want to be funny. I just want to be everybody and their mom is a variety streamer. I just want to be a variety streamer. For example, I used to talk about hair care and I used to do my hair on stream and I used to have like a product review. So my niche was always natural hair gamer. And so I always had something to like talk about when a game would release and they would release like afro hairstyles and things like that. But like what is just a need like why do I need it? Why am I striving for it? Why am I stressing myself out? What if I want to rebrand? What if I'm the person who wears pajamas and now I don't want to be a sleepy streamer anymore? Like, like what's a niche? Why is it so easy to miss or easy to like misinterpret like what you think it should be?
So the term variety streamer, it definitely kills me inside when someone's like, "I'm a variety streamer." It's
Please.
like, you and millions of
Yeah.
people are variety streamers, and, like, that doesn't actually tell me anything, you could just say I'm a streamer, and that still wouldn't tell me anything. It's the same thing. Variety streamer doesn't really say anything. I help people with their elevator pitches, and, it's funny, you ask people, "Okay, what's your elevator pitch?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, I'm a variety streamer, and I've been streaming since this time, and I play games." I'm like, "Okay." As
Great. Wonderful.
I try to get people to kind of go a little bit deeper and, you know, is there a certain like type of game or genre that you lean into more? What about your personality? What aspects of your personality are defining to your channel, and can you accentuate those? You should be using more descriptive language to describe your channel. And if you can't figure out a compelling elevator pitch, they can tell someone that like is like, oh, this is like coherent, it's concise, and also interesting. If you can't do that, you cannot market yourself. You cannot grow your stream. You can't appeal to an audience. Really at the core is your elevator pitch, and that is niching into something. It's having a content strategy. It's knowing who your audience is and trying to reach those people. You will never make content that appeals to everyone. And so, the value of we talked about defining yourself. You don't have to do the most unique thing. You don't have to be the only one who does it. You just have to go in a direction that targets a specific set of people in some type of content that it gets them to watch your stream, give you money, subscribe to you, go watch your YouTube channel, go consume all your content. And if you're variety and you're making, content about Call of Duty, and then you're making content about The Sims, and then you're making content about some indie game, you're all over the place and you're not appealing to the same audience every time. You're appealing to different people. The dream is that, you could stream and do whatever you want and people will follow, but that only works if you have loyal fans. And you only get loyal fans if you attract an audience from, the surface, which is this is the content that I'm providing. This is a purposeful content. It serves a purpose. It's entertaining. It's educational, and it is for these people. And then those people will wanna watch more like that, not more like the total opposite of that.
Yeah.
So you gotta hit, like, the top of the funnel first, the widest part of the funnel, which is like, "Okay, I need to reach a lot of people." That's short form content, and you have to reach a certain type of person to watch all of your content, not just pop off with one, like, really cool play in Call of Duty, and then 90% of your content is not Call of Duty or not even a shooter, not even in the right genre, you're not gonna get those people to convert as followers. You're not gonna get them to watch more of your stuff. I think there's more discipline that is needed to grow as a creator these days than back then when I was just playing every new game that came out.
Yeah.
And so you have to be more thoughtful. You can still make content and play other games if, like, you want to, but understanding, like, if you wanna grow and you have goals and you're trying to become a full-time creator, you need to you need to have structure. You need to have, like, a plan, strategy. And these different layers are so important to save you potentially years of just, pulling your hair out, just frustrated at not growing. I think we talk about, like, the dangers of content creation. I think the mental part of that is just as, impactful, really, the burnout and the, "Why am I not good enough? Why am I not growing? Why I've been doing this for years and years and I'm not getting anywhere." That really takes a toll on people. So, I think in terms of niching, it's something that I recommend creators, like, kind of understand, like, what they're doing and why at the very baseline.
That's good. It's so funny when you were talking, I remembered that literally when I started my co-streaming, like, a couple months ago, I had some people pop up and they're like, "Oh, man." I was like, "Why are you up so early?" And then they were like, "I remember that you stream really early." And I was like, "Oh." Like, it was just really funny that they said that, and I was like, "Yeah, that has always been me to just stream, like, 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Like, US time, like, 6 in the morning or in the morning, and then by that time in, like, London, it would kind of be almost like afternoon. So people I would get, like, those 2 audiences, and so anytime I would check my stats, I'd be like, "Why am I so popular in, like, Europe?" And it's like, "'Cause you're on their commutes home or like something like that. So, yeah, I agree. It's important because I've always been an indie game type of girly. I've always been an indie game. People are like, "What are you playing?" Like, that's always, "What are you playing? What is that?" Like that indie games and fighting games, and so, and I think that helps you to pitch yourself too, right? Like I got to work with a lot of brands, and like I said, I wasn't partnered, and even when they started rolling out with the affiliate, it took me a minute, but that never really slowed me down. I was able to pitch myself because I'm like, I do indie games, I do fighting games, um, and I got some deals. Like I got some partnerships with like hair products because I was talking about hair stuff. And so they're like, oh, okay, like this is a way to get seen. So it can happen. The third and last one is I'm going to ask you to give us something that's very important. Oh, wait, no, 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 no. That'll be the fourth one. The third one is.
We can't go out of order here, okay, Junae?
So the third one is, like you said, it's harder to start streaming. Like you can't just hop up and stream. Like you have to have those content pillars, kind of know who you are. If you were starting a stream, I know there are so many YouTube videos that are like how to get into Twitch in 2025, and then there's always going to forever be. What is something that could be some evergreen piece of advice to get started on a streaming platform, even if it's not Twitch? Because what if Twitch goes to, I don't know, cooking, right? And now everyone has to cook all the time. Like it'll no longer be really relevant to gamers. But with like TikTok Live and just so many things that are popping up that are streamer focused. What is some good advice to get started? And what is a co uh, platform that people could use, right? So, like, let's say we're in the early days of Mixer, and it's like, oh, okay, well, if you use Mixer, then you should also use like Instagram or YouTube, like, like that type of pairing together.
Yeah, so I think for the first part, like what would I do to get started streaming today? I would say reference the previous question because I think like just kind of understanding laying out your goals for what you want to do and picking an angle to lean into is going to be just really it's gonna provide so much clarity and I think save you from, like, so much, like, pain down the road where you're just like, "You can't really brute force this anymore. You can't just stream, like, 12 hours a day and grow." In fact, a lot of the advice I give to streamers is to cut back on their stream and focus on other content creation aspects. I think YouTube, in terms of, like, a platform, is really interesting because you have YouTube Shorts, which is that's the 60-second bite-sized content that anyone can watch on their phone, and those videos get billions of views. And that is how you're going to get your reach, right? That's how you cast your net out, and hopefully some of those people subscribe and hit the like button and comment. That's what you're hoping for, right? And with YouTube, you can when you post a short, you can actually link that short to a video. So if you posted a tutorial, right, how to do this in this game, and you get like a 60-second version of that, people are like, "Oh, that's interesting. I want to watch like the whole tutorial." YouTube lets you like natively link that together and you can send people down into your videos. That's great. That's a funnel and it's connected. And then with the live streaming, although I would say as a streamer, I would still stream on Twitch. I would multi-stream to Twitch and YouTube at the same time. I think Twitch is the best platform for community. I think YouTube is the best platform for growth. Um, which is you need growth to get the community, right? So streaming on YouTube, when you're live and you've been posting shorts and people are watching those, you get a little indicator on your channel like that you are live. It's like a little live icon on your avatar. And so if you're posting shorts and you're live, people now know that they can come and watch. Oh, well, they posted a tutorial about this game and now they're streaming that game. I can go watch and ask questions and go see what they're all about. And so YouTube makes this funnel of being a content creator totally within the platform itself. And, YouTube is a very big platform. YouTube is 10 times the platform Twitch is. So if you're really looking to grow, you have to hit all these different layers of content creation. And so the number one thing I tell creators is like repurpose your content. Again, like I talked about with the live stream, hit all of the different layers of the funnel. Um, I think YouTube is a really, really great place to have those pieces connect. So if I was starting out, that's what I would do. I would define what I'm trying to do as a creator. I would be deliberate about what kind of content I'm making, what purpose it's serving. If I want to be a gamer, like what games am I going to play? If I play this type of game, how do I know that those people are going to watch the next game I play? How do I ensure that the next choice I make falls into that same audience? Being deliberate about my choices and then repurposing my content so that I do short form because short form is the way that you get your reach.
Now that you make that case for YouTube, I can see TikTok being able to not compete but support that, because I've noticed that when people live stream on TikTok, I see their video right now. And I have a friend, he, after like being on Twitch for so long and then having like a resurgence on TikTok, he does these very interesting videos. Let me not get his name right because I know he changed his name. Let me look at it real quick and just say nostalgic. Come on, pop up. Um, nostalgic guy. Maybe it's nostalgic black guy. I'm in his Discord and I not the TikTok name. Sorry, and then I don't want to say your real name. Sorry about that. But he makes these really interesting videos on TikTok where he go, "Hey, I'm streaming right now, like live on my channel," and sure enough, there's like a circle around it. And so it's really cool how he does that because it's like, oh, he is streaming right now. Like, let me go click on it. And so, yeah, I think TikTok can support that. But obviously, TikTok is not the platform that YouTube is. And yeah, yeah. So I think that's really good. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
pretty clever, honestly, like that YouTube's doing that. And I think TikTok is trying, like, they are trying to do that. I think TikTok has like definitely its own quirks. And
Yeah,
also, TikTok is a big question mark whether it's going to exist in the US and how it exists in the US.
exactly.
So I think creating on TikTok is fine and great
Yeah,
and definitely like worth hitting if you're already making like a vertical 60-second clip for YouTube, you might as well post it
yeah,
on TikTok, right? But I think, in January, a lot of TikTokers got a wake up call of like
yeah,
TikTok may not be around in a few months. And so diversify your content. It's very important.
yeah.
Just don't overdo it where you're trying to be everywhere and burn yourself out. It's a really delicate balance of like, don't put all your eggs in one basket, but also like, don't put your eggs in all the baskets.
Yeah,
A
that
couple
does make
good
sense.
baskets,
Yeah,
pick a
a
few
couple, a
quality
few. Yeah.
baskets that you can really like pay attention to.
Yeah, maybe don't have so many eggs. I don't know. We don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
but do you have anything with all of the good stuff that you said, is there anything that you wanna add to it, or you're like, "Oh, this, like, very important component."
I feel like I gave like the best pieces of advice. You know what? The last thing I would say as a creator is like collaborate and find your people, find your community. Don't try to be a creator by yourself. Don't isolate yourself because it's difficult. Like Twitch even recognizes that collaborations are beneficial. They're actually helping with the new stream together tool where you actually share your viewership with people you collaborate with. So I think Twitch is like really making it apparent that it's much more beneficial to collaborate than it is to do things solo. And um, I think having people that you can support each other with, help each other, lift each other up. I think there's so many great benefits to just finding a community of similar creators that are going through it, that are your same size, same type of content, and just helping each other, working together, and not seeing each other as competition. I think that's a really negative and toxic mindset that is gonna I think is just more of like a negative experience in content creation in general.
I agree. I think the best thing you could do now is have 2 to 3 people and all create content together, like, and then hit different things, but, it doesn't work like that for everyone. Loco, do you wanna tell the people where they can find you and, for what for what reason they would want to find you?
Yeah, so if you're a content creator and you want to learn more things about the industry, you want to keep up, you're trying to grow, you can find me LOWCO pretty much everywhere. Like I said, I do stream on Twitch, but I also post my content on YouTube. Um, and I also run my company Streamer Square. So if you're looking for something that's more personal, hands-on, we do one-on-one consulting. We also have a cohort program where you can actually meet like-minded creators, get feedback on your content, get personalized advice. And of course, RIVR.stream. If you do stream and you're looking to find more clips from your content so that you can repurpose it, so you can grow on YouTube and expand your reach, that's exactly what we're building. And would love to have you try it and give me feedback. Go use it, and just reach out if you're a creator and this has been helpful.
Do you have any exclusive you wanna give us about any exclusives you wanna give us about River?
We actually are just recently doing a special thing for creators who are dealing with the Twitch highlight limits. So Twitch has instituted 100 hours capped for the amount of highlights that you can have on your stream or on your channel.
What was it
So we're
before?
unlimited.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I
Yeah,
just wanted to
yeah.
double check my sources. Yeah, okay.
So we have there's a lot of creators that have thousands of hours of content. They're stressed. So
Wait,
yeah, it's a whole thing.
on the highlighter?
Yeah. Thousands of hours of video.
Okay,
Thousands.
that's so annoying because I do.
Yeah, you might want to check that because you have 2 months to get under that limit or they will delete your content for you
They're
to help
so
you get under.
rude. Anyways, this
So,
was about River. Yes, so because
yes.
Twitch is limiting highlights.
So what we're doing is because you can't when you're over the limit, you actually can't make new highlights. So for the next 2 months, if you are streaming and trying to highlight your content, you can't. So we're trying to help with that aspect where if you reach out to us, we will give you access to River. I mean, you can still try it even today, but reach out to us. We'll try to help you with your ongoing videos because we store video, let you access it even if it gets deleted off Twitch, and we let you make highlights and clips from your content all in one. So it's really something that the team and I put together last week just to we want to help creators, and we
Yeah,
saw an opportunity. We work with video content as well, and
yeah.
if there's something we can do to alleviate some of the stress, we can't store thousands of hours of your highlights that you've
Right.
done. I don't even know. Someone had 23,000 hours.
Oh my goodness.
23,000 hours of video. I'm like, no one is gonna host that for free, let's be
No,
honest,
not
like,
for free,
that's
yeah.
that's ridiculous, but yeah, we're trying to help with that.
Ooh, okay. Well, that is really cool because I've been streaming for years, and I remember when the highlight tool came around to even go back and go through streams that like I wanted to save. So they are trifling for limiting it, but I get it. There's so many people on Twitch, and I know it costs money to host that stuff. And for one person to have 23K, like Twitch ain't never seen those numbers,
Yeah.
when they were just starting. So I get it. But okay, cool. Thank you for that exclusive. I really appreciate it. Thank you for talking to me today. This has been wonderful. Like I said, it was going to be, right? This has been another banger, and it was a great conversation. It was insightful for me as well, even someone who is not a streamer, but still, I think I'll always be a content creator at heart. Like, I don't know if you lose it, like you're always like, oh, this is really interesting, or whatever the case is. So thank you. I appreciate that. 2014 Junae definitely appreciates it and is excited that we're even here to have this conversation because there was a time where like talking to other women who are playing like streaming video games was scarce, and definitely not at the level that either of us have achieved in the longevity of streaming. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation. I'm glad that we actually had an opportunity to talk and share perspective here, and I know a lot of soapboxes, but yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been another episode of Gaming for the Culture. We stream live on Patreon. Well, technically, you don't need to know the details. We stream live on Patreon. So if you want to ask our wonderful guests any questions, please feel free to subscribe to Patreon. You can literally subscribe same day and still ask your questions. That is how you support the podcast, Gaming for the Culture. Also, if you have any interesting people that you would like to be a guest, or if you want to be a guest yourself, definitely reach out to me. I'm always open to having a conversation. I don't want to say everybody gonna hop on, unless you guys want me to interview your doggos. I will. I will do that. I will do that. I will have no qualms or any type of animals. It depends, right? But that's a new thing that I just implemented today. So you're, you're welcome. You're welcome. But um, this has been really, really great, and thanks so much for supporting the podcast and supporting me. And for those who have been rocking with me for a really, really long time, I appreciate it. If you're new, thank you so much and stick around for the ride. If you want to learn any more about me, I have a link tree. It's going to be linktr.ee/Junae Benne. You can Google me. I have articles on my Substack or my YouTube, or if you want to connect on LinkedIn for anything else, I am around. But until next time, game safely, be nice to each other, and please wash your hands. We're still in a world full of germs. Just do it. Okay. Okay. Bye.